Yes.
All
So
right,
we're
just
joined by morning anchor at WJTV News, Thao. We thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our computer science engineering students in Madison County schools. All of my friends over at Shirley Simmons Middle School with over there with Angela Jordan, and my friends at Old Town Middle with my friends Jatoria Kirksey, Angela Reed, and everybody else, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us today, because I know you just finished your broadcast.
well, just finished it at 7, so about a few hours. We did have our
Well,
morning meeting.
exactly. So, before we get into all your broadcasting stuff and what goes on in a broadcast, you are from California, from Los
Yes,
Angeles. Went to University of California, Irvine, home of the Anteaters, one of the
yes.
largest public universities in the country, and one of the more prestigious universities in the country out there on the West Coast. So, tell us about your college experience and how that led you. You went to Maryland, and now you've been in Jackson for a while. So, we'd love to hear about what it was like to be at a huge university like that out there in California.
Yeah, I loved UC Irvine. I tried to get involved as much as I could there. That was where I got involved in like journalism. I'm actually a journalism student, and then I switched into broadcast. But yeah, eventually after graduating from college, and then I applied to like a ton of jobs. And then I got my first gig in Maryland, Hagerstown, Maryland. That was my
Yeah,
first job.
yeah, great little town right there in the Maryland Panhandle. So, um, obviously, this is something that requires a lot of technology skills, but also requires a lot of writing skills. And something that
Yeah.
Blake let us know last year is that I did not know this is that WJTV, you even need even more technical skills. He said you guys have automatic cameras. You guys are uploading to the website. You guys are. I've seen you around town carrying a camera. So you know how to operate the camera, you know how to edit the story, you're writing the story on the website, you're putting up updates on the website, and then when you're on the air, you've got to know where the camera is and have some kind of knowledge of how the camera works in the studio. So there's a lot of technology skills. It's not just getting in front of a camera and reading the news.
Absolutely. It's not just getting in front of the camera and reading the teleprompter, as you just said. But if you don't know how to operate a camera, you're going to learn in this industry. But of course, there's a lot of people behind the scenes too who help us, put things up on the web as well.
Yeah, now that's what I wanted to talk about next because obviously in the morning we see you and Gracie and Kayla and everybody in front of the camera. But there's a lot of people behind the scenes because this is an industry that needs good, skilled people. But somebody may say, I think the news is fun, TV could be fun, but I'm not really an on the camera type person. So,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that WJTV or any news channel can't really find a spot for you. So, what are some of the other jobs and what are the skills that they need maybe coming out of high school or college?
Yeah, totally. You can also be a director. Um, it's essentially the person that's just said directs the shows. You can also be a producer. So being a producer is really great in that you get to know how to write. And sometimes if you want to, you know, maybe possibly, you know, work your way up to be a reporter, being a producer is a really great way because you know how to kind of stack the shows together and you know how to write. And knowing how to write is a big thing actually in the broadcast industry. I don't think many people realize that you have to know how to write.
Yeah, and because obviously you mentioned the teleprompter, somebody has to write that. Somebody has to write how they want it said, and then obviously the anchor's job is to read it the way it's written for several reasons. One, it needs to sound professional. It needs to be clear and concise. The people watching a lot of times are not going to have any idea about the subject matter you're talking about.
Yeah.
You've
So
had some really cool stories where it may be something somebody doesn't know about. I loved your story on the mustard seed about a year ago.
thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm just plugging in
Yeah,
the
no,
laptop.
that's fine. No, that's fine. You had a great story on the mustard seed about a year ago, which a lot of people may not know about all the work they do in Rankin County, but you were able to say, "Look, here's what they do. Here's who they serve. Here's how you can help," and it really gave a lot of information that was easy for everybody to understand.
Yeah, that's a funny thing you mention that because I just talked to them a few days ago about setting up another story. They're having another lemonade stand soon, I think sometime in May. But yeah, like stories like that. That is absolutely one of my favorite stories, the mustard seed, because they don't get that much attention. So
Yeah.
I always try to highlight those kinds of stories, you don't really hear much about. And especially using this kind of platform, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about local news, and and we've talked about this with the sports people, but it's the same way on the news side as well. Local news is so good because groups like the Mustard Seed, and I know you've done some cool school stories on. You did a really good one on Home Central High School. Groups like that don't always get recognition, especially in small towns. And local news really gives groups the opportunity to get exposure. It gives people a chance to have a platform, and it gets people informed about things happening in their community. Everybody watches the national news, and Mississippi really isn't a huge part on that, except for negative things. The water crisis made it, and the abortion protests made it. So there's a lot more going on in our community than that, and that's where local news comes into play, and they do it in a very high tech and efficient manner as well.
Yeah, and there's so much more positive news. Like 12 News is all about being focused, being local first and foremost. But yeah, there's a lot of positive things around the community, not just all negative. Like we see those, yeah. There are those fair share, but there's a lot more positive stuff going around in the Jackson Metro. And also, I do want to mention to you the prompter thing that you said. So yeah, we have the producers, reporters may write it, but as anchors, at least I try to go back into it and edit it into how I like would speak. So you don't necessarily have to say like everything that's in the
Oh,
prompter.
that makes sense. But also, now explain to us. Now, I know I've heard this a couple times, but I'm not real smart. So,
Sure.
explain to us when you are
I get
live on
that.
the camera, are
Uh-huh.
you moving the prompter or somebody else moving?
So here at WJTV, we have a prompter pedal at the bottom of the desk, which you don't see, but we're like literally stepping on it. It's like a brake pad type of thing.
Oh, okay.
Imagine it like that. But yeah, and that's
So
how it runs.
it's like you're driving. It's like you're driving while you're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, in some ways without a steering wheel. And
Uh,
then if it happens to malfunction, you know how technology is. Then our producers will help us out and they'll like roll back there in the control room.
Absolutely. Now, I know you go on the air at 4:30 in the morning. You get there about an hour and a half, 2 hours before that. So you're there at the you guys always say dark and early. And you get off at an earlier time, but there's people that are there 24 hours a day. There's people that are updating the website on breaking news in the middle of the night. There's people that are writing the script, putting together the packages. There's people that get there in the like Byron Brown and Melanie Christopher, who are so great. They get there later in the afternoon then get off later at night. So talk about the different shifts because it's not just a 9 to 5 like a normal office job would be.
No, if you want a 9 to 5, this is not the job for you. You have to like love, breathe, just have a passion for this type of field, or else you just, it's gonna catch up to you. But no, I absolutely love. I know my shift is I'm in at 4 a.m. That's when my shift officially starts. But yeah, I do wake up pretty early, but I'm a morning person, so I don't mind it so much. And I do have the rest of my day to myself. So it's kind of pretty much just like balancing your day. And I'm not really the best with that sometimes. I'm like, all right, when I get off work, am I going to go to the gym today? Or, just like take a nap for the rest of the day until work begins tomorrow. But it really just depends on, I guess, how I feel.
Yeah, but again, if you're a person that doesn't want to wake up early, you're a night person, the news industry could be a great industry for you because even if you're not on the camera, like we said, you got people there 24 hours a day. You need people
Yeah.
updating the website. You need people giving the breaking news alerts on the app. The apps are a big deal in local news now. You
Oh,
need
yeah.
good technical people to write the apps. I think WJTV's got a great one. And pretty much every local news channel is going to have an app now with weather alerts. It's going to have breaking news. It's going to go live with the newscast. So even if you're not near a television, people can watch on their phone. So when I was a kid, I never would have dreamed that would happen. Everybody had to get home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock to watch Walter Sadler and Melanie Christopher back in the day. That shows how old I am with WJTV, but it really is a lot of technological advancements that are, that even 10 years ago didn't exist in this field.
Yeah, and I'm still like catching up to it until this day. Because, not only are you going to report the stories, but you have to also like really like make sure that you push those social media notifications out, like on
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's a lot to balance, but
Yeah. And,
it's
and,
fun.
um,
It's a part of it. It's fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to me, this is one of the cooler jobs in technology because you get to be a part of everything. Now, and we talked about, some of the events that happen in town. What are some of the cooler things you've got to cover where you got to meet, news people get to meet celebrities all the time. So who are some of the cooler people that you've met just in the short time you've been here in Jackson?
Oh my goodness. I feel like a lot of people I run into, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, I get to meet you. Um, you might laugh at this, but Marshall Ramsey, I'm actually a huge fan of him. Um,
Absolutely.
Totally respect the guy. He is from San Diego. So San Diego, California. So he actually came on to our show at Live at 9, and I got a chance to meet him, and that was just amazing. It was like the highlight of my day.
Wow. And and a fun fact, you talk about from California, is our buddy Blake Levine is also from the Los Angeles area. So it's really cool that,
Santa
here
Monica.
yeah, so you got here at WJTV, you got two Southern California natives that are really making a name for themselves in Mississippi, which is really cool. And that's the other cool thing about this industry. I hear kids tell me all the time, I don't want to live in Mississippi. I want to live somewhere else. Well, this is a great field to get into. Even if you start in Mississippi and get your, and get here, you can move up, and every city in America needs news people. The story I always tell, and I know Ian will like me telling this, Ian Richardson, who's married to my mother, got his start in Greenville, Mississippi, and actually hired Hoda Kotb for her first television job, and now she's hosting the Today Show on NBC. So, starting anywhere, you can really move any place in the country.
Absolutely. Wow, I'm a huge fan of her. I'm actually.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
she got her start. She got her start in Mississippi. So, for kids tell me all the time, I want to live somewhere else. This may be the field to get into. Now, just a couple things before I get to the students' questions. First of all, if kids are looking to get into this field, what are some things in college they need to study, and some of the skills they need to start really practicing on right now? Because, like I've mentioned several times, here at Velma Jackson, we have a digital media academy which has produced our famous alum, Delisha Banks, who's now a part of WJTV. Madison Central has the same thing, and as well as our Career and Technical Center for Madison County Schools. And these are skills they can start learning in high school. So what are some things they really can start getting good at now that can translate into a great television professional?
Well, if you want to be on camera, I would say go out there, and even if it's with your phone. Like when I first started, I literally had I shot stuff from my phone, or just like this outdated iPhone. You know how phones are nowadays. Like they look like they can be like professional shoots or something. But go out there and learn how to shoot, learn how to shoot a camera, learn how to write, learn how to basically know your stories, research it, know what's going on around your area. And if you want to go somewhere, for example, when from Los Angeles to Mississippi, I had to research, like are the big news in Mississippi? Like
Yeah.
you gotta know what you're talking about, or at least try to know what you're talking
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the students' questions, one thing I really did want to talk about is Wednesday is the beginning of Asian Heritage Month here in the United States, and I know you're very proud of your Vietnamese heritage, as you should be. But you don't see a lot of Asian Americans in this field, and we have a lot of Asian Americans in Madison County schools. Some of them are first generation Americans, and like any other field, this field needs diversity. The people on television should represent the people that are watching. So we really don't see a lot of Asians in news broadcasts. First of all, why do you think that is, and why is this field so desperate for these young Asian kids or to really get involved in this?
I think typically when you think of broadcast, we see a lot of male figures, or just people who aren't really Asian Americans. It's just not something when you think of broadcast. I don't think you really think of, oh, an Asian American, but times have changed, and we absolutely need diversity and representation, and that show matters. So, a kid who wants to be, whether you're Asian, Hispanic, white, it doesn't matter. If you want to go into that career field, you got to represent. And I'm so proud. I'm Vietnamese and as well as Chinese too.
Oh, awesome. Well, I know you're proud of both of those. I mean, it's two groups that have just made such a great mark in our country, and that needs to be recognized. And I'm a huge supporter of Asian American Heritage Month. Unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot of time of it in school because it's the end of school with finals and everything. But it definitely needs to be mentioned. It needs to be recognized, and and I encourage everybody, but especially some of our Asian American students. This is a great field to get into, and it needs them.
Absolutely. More than ever.
Yeah, and you're a great example of that, and you're doing such a great job of representing the Asian American community, and we're glad to have you in Jackson. So just all the great work you're doing is awesome.
I appreciate it. Mississippi has been so good to me. So I can't
Well,
complain.
as somebody that drives Uber in the city, and I know you covered the international ballet competition that we had this past summer. I was meeting people from all over the world, and the consensus about Mississippi, they had three things to say. Everyone here is so friendly, the food is fantastic, but the weather's terrible. And I said, I agree on all 3 points.
Whether it's mood swings.
Yeah, Gracie's got her hands full. But I do have some questions from the students, and these are really good. So I'm gonna get to as many of these as I can. This first one is Levon Johnson. He's in ninth grade, and he is a photography fanatic. He's always got a camera with him, and he asked, "Are photographers in high demand in WJTV or other news outlets?"
Absolutely, all the time. We always need photographers. And if he wants to get in the door, get his foot in the door, come to us. We'll look into my boss will look into, his resume and such. And yeah, maybe you can bring him along. But if he's in photography, they're always in high demand. Producers are always in high demand as well.
Yeah, and the thing about photography, and I'm far from an expert, but camera technology is always changing. The advancements in cameras is staggering at the pace it goes. So, a young person is going to know how to operate one of these newer cameras more than somebody old like me. So, if somebody's interested in photography, stay up on the camera technology. Getting the best shot is just as important as having the best story. So, I'd encourage everybody interested in photography, start getting those portfolios together, show what you can do. These news channels can find a place for it.
Absolutely. And even if you don't know, like I've said before, even if you don't know how to necessarily, you don't have to be like, like pro at it and knowing how to, do video camera work, but just like, don't be intimidated by it. Just
Yeah.
you'll learn along the way, but learn now.
Yeah, and
Learn
and,
now,
and
learn now.
again, and that's something they can start learning in high school with our digital media academies. We have some really good cameras here on campus, so really encourage I know most of these are in middle school and ninth grade, but that's something they can start thinking about to get good in this field. I like
And
this one. This is
that's another
Taki.
thing too, Greg. Sorry, if I could just add,
Go ahead.
that's
Go
another
ahead.
thing too. Take advantage of the resources you have at school. Utilize them. They're at your fingertips.
Absolutely. I like this one. This is Takevian Boyd. He's in 10th grade. And he asked, the first time you went live on the air, did you get nervous?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like 100%. I don't know if I'll ever not be nervous, but I was, even when I go on air now, like before the morning show, before noon, I'm like always still a bit nervous. But I think it's good that I'm a little bit nervous because
Yeah, and that's
I
the
love what I
thing
do.
about that's about television. Most jobs, if you're having a bad day, you can kind of, fade in the background and I don't feel good. But when that red light comes on, they're expecting you to have a TV face and people are watching. And I think it's hilarious. Kayla told me that you guys get people complaining about stuff on the air every day. And it's just so you would think it's so minute, but people notice things when that red light comes on and you're on camera, whether it's a story that's been edited or you're live, you got to be ready to roll. It's not a type of job where you can say, "Oh, I'm not feeling it today." Well, the viewers are going to be feeling
Yep. They'll know because they'll see it
it.
too on your
Yeah, and it's
face.
crazy what they notice.
it's,
Um,
it's things, but I just laugh at those types of things they say. But
yeah, yeah. Some of the things that I've heard people complain about is really hysterical, but it is. But that's the importance of being able to reach your audience. This is Michael Sherrill, one of our football players here at Velma Jackson, and he asked, "What part of your job do you enjoy the most?"
going outside and actually the part that I love the most, you might think it's the part where I'm sitting at the desk, but it's actually when I get to go out in the field and work on my cool schools. Because I do a cool school segment which airs Mondays at 6:30 in the or 6:30 a.m. newscast and again later in the day at 4 p.m. But that's the highlight of my day is when I get to go out and talk to those different schools and the kiddos about the amazing things they're doing. We want to
Yeah,
recognize and recognize like the top students who as well, as long as teachers and staff. But yeah, I think I would say the most rewarding part of my job is going out in the field and actually talking to the community.
absolutely. And then again, and talking about, you had that story on Home Central, that choir director up there was doing a great job, and that's a kind of a small town, but they were able to get recognized, and they deserve to be recognized. And we've been fortunate enough to be on Cool Schools twice. I know my friend Tammy King over there, at Old Town Middle's been on there. Ridgeland High's been on there, Madison Central. So it's something that our schools have been a part of as well, and it's been great for our community.
Yeah, I saw your bit about when you started this back in what 2021.
2020 during COVID.
Yeah, and then it's continued ever since. So that's pretty neat that you brought this up.
Yeah, and it's been great to give you guys a platform and be able to reach all of our students in a way that we never would have thought of it had not been for COVID. So it really is crazy the technological advances that a pandemic brought us.
Right. Something that was so like, there are positive outcomes out of it.
Yeah, tell me about it because it was definitely a lot of in that one. I got one more. This is Rondell Ellis. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What is one thing you love and one thing you don't love so much about your career?"
One thing I love is, again, having those conversations with kids because you never know what they're going to say. You know what kids are like, they're honest. Kids are pretty honest, and the thing I don't like so much, it's probably not a surprise, is waking up so early.
But getting off before everybody definitely has its perks.
Right. That's not so bad. But sometimes I wish I could hit snooze a little bit more.
But and the positive of that is, if somebody wants to have a family, when you're getting off early, you be able to pick up your kids from school. You can go to their events in the evening, so you don't have to worry about all that. So it can be conducive to a family if you plan it correctly. Because I know several of the people there at WJTV and other news outlets have families, and they're able to work it around their schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us because I know you've been at work since the sun was down this morning. But a couple things before we go. First of all, tell us when we can see you on Channel 12.
Oh, in about just an hour, like at noon. So tune in. 12 news at noon, Monday through Fridays. That's when I'm on. It's a half
Okay.
hour, so it's a little bit less. So,
But you're also on every morning at 4:30.
yes, every morning, Monday through Friday, 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m.
And in the last hour, you're joined with our friend Kayla Thompson as well.
Yeah.
Now, and obviously, they can always check out the live newscast on the WJTV app, which I have done several times when I was on the road and needed to see what was going on. So that's convenient. But before we go, we talked about all the different skills that are needed, all the different great rewarding things that are in a career in television. But why should these kids really consider getting into this field that needs young talent?
Just because, like I truly believe everyone has a story to tell. And I believe this is a great way, great platform to be able to tell those stories of everyone. But if you want to get to know your community, you have a passion for, sharing those incredible stories that not many people may know about, like this is a field for you. And it's so much fun. I mean, you get to wake up early and go home early.
Yep. So, if you can handle that, or even if you want to stay there at night, they can find a place for you. But again, we thank you so much for joining us. We know you got to get ready for the 12 o'clock newscast. Thao, WJTV News, focused on you. They are at Channel 12. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate your time.
All
Have a
right.
good week.
Talk to you soon, buddy.